but once.
All the world's a stage.
Lend me your ears.
What wonderful words have been penned by the Bard of Avon, William Shakespeare, the legendary writer who shaped English literature in a way no other could.
I completely agree with you, Kenvi. Literature would have been totally different if it weren't for him.
A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I, Kenvi,
And I, Vaishali,
are here to take you to the Shakespearean era, where our very own young Udgam bards of Class X will declaim famous speeches of William Shakespeare.
we extend a very warm welcome to our director Radhika ma'am, our principal Vijaya Lakshmi ma'am, vice principal senior secondary Manjari ma'am, our vice principal Malabika ma'am, our supervisors Kinjal ma'am and Monisha ma'am, and all our dear teachers. We are privileged to have you here with us today.
To judge this declamation, we are honored to have Vice Principal Secondary Section, Aarti ma'am, Sylvia ma'am, and Falak ma'am. Thank you all for your gracious presence.
There is nothing in the world like a persuasive speech to fuddle the mental apparatus, upset the conventions, and spur the emotions of the audience through traits of oratory. And I am sure that today our friends are all set to arouse these great emotions in the hearts of our audience here.
In the play The Merchant of Venice, when Salerio tried to convince Shylock not to ask for a pound of flesh from Antonio, Shylock responded and explained why he hated Antonio. We now invite our first participant, Aishwarya Menon from 10th H on the stage. She is going to declaim Shylock's speech.
To bathe fish withal. If it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He hath disgraced me and hindered me 500,000, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, heated mine enemies, and what's his reason? I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subjects to the same diseases, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is. If you break us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be? By Christian example. Why revenge? The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction. Thank you.
Thank you, Aishwarya.
You know, Vaishri, my best friend betrayed me.
What happened?
Well, he didn't wish me on my birthday.
Well, your sweet betrayal reminds me of the greatest betrayal of all times, when Brutus stabbed his best friend Julius Caesar and then tried to justify his actions. Next, we have Asmi Sarah from 10th G who is going to deliver Brutus' speech after Caesar's assassination. So let's hear her for her cause.
Romans, countrymen, and lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to mine honor, that you may believe. Censor me in your wisdom, and awaken your senses, that you may be the better judge. If there any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love for Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend may demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Would you rather Caesar were living and die, all slaves, than that Caesar were dead, to live, all free men? There's tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. Would anyone be so base as to be a bondman? If any, speak, for him have I offended. Would anyone be so rude as to not love his country? Would any speak, for him have I offended? Would anyone be so vile as to not be a Roman? If any, speak, for him have I offended. I pause for my reply. Then none have I offended. I have done no more to Brutus than you shall do to Caesar. The question of his death is enrolled in the Capitol. His glory not exonerated wherein he was worthy, nor his offences enforced, for which he suffered death. Here comes his body, mourned by Mark Antony, who had no part in his dying, but shall reap the benefits of his dying, a place in the commonwealth, as which of you shall not? With this I depart, that as I slew my best lover for the good of Rome, I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to meet my death. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asmi. Well, one of my favorite Shakespearean plays is All's Well That Ends Well, and the intense monologues by Helena. Oh, I just love them.
Helena is madly in love with Bertram, but can't have him. So the Countess, her guardian, presses her to confess her love for him. Let's hear Helena's confession by Avni Gupta of 10th G.
Can I confess, here on my knee, before high heaven and you, that before you and next unto high heaven, I love your son. My friends were poor, but honest so's my love. Be not offended, for it hurts not him that he is loved of me. I follow him, not by any token of presumptuous suit, nor will I have him till I do deserve him, yet never know how the desert should be. I know I love in vain, strive against hope, yet in this captious and untenable sea, I still pour in the waters of my love, and lack not to lose though. Thus Indian-like, religious in mine error, I adore the sun that looks upon his worshipper, but knows of him no more. My dearest madam, let not your hate encounter with my love, for loving where you do but if yourself, whose aged honor sights of virtuous youth, did ever in so true flame of liking, which chastely and loved dearly, that your Dian was both herself and love. Oh, then give pity to her whose state is such that cannot choose, but lend and give her she is sure to lose, that seeks not to find what her search implies, but wrestle like lives sweetly where she dies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Avni. Vaishvi, do you want to know an interesting fact about the Shakespearean era?
Oh, I'm all ears.
During the Elizabethan era, when Shakespeare's plays were staged, these were actually the males who used to play females' characters, because the society was so rigid it didn't allow females to take part in such performances.
Oh, that was something new.
Talk of graves, of worms and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose our executors and talk of wills, and yet not so. For what can we bequeath save our deposed bodies to the ground? Our lives, our lands, and all our Bullingbrookes. And nothing can we call our own but death. And that small model of the barren earth which serves as paste and cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of the king keeps death his court. And there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene to monarchize, to be feared and killed with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about a life were brass impregnable. And last with a little pin that bores through the castle walls, and farewell, king. Cover your heads and mock not flesh and blood with solemn reverence. Throw away respect, tradition, firm and ceremonious duty. For you have but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, feel want, taste grief, need friends, and subjected thus, how can you say to me, I am a king? Thank you.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis the mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes its own monarch better than his crown. His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attributes to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dreads and fears of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is the attribute to God himself. An earthly power doth then show like his gods, when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, thou justice thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy, and that same prayer that teaches us to render the deeds of mercy. I have spoke this much to mitigate the justice. Follow the strict code of Venice, must needs give sentence against the merchant there. Thank you.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus had told you that Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar. Under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He had brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general's coffer fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor cried, Caesar had wept. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And sure, he is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did twice refuse. Was this ambition? But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. I speak not to disapprove of what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? Oh, judgment, thou art fed to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pass till it come back to me. Thank you.
All the world stage, all the men and women, merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. but one man in his time plays many parts. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and a shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly, to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made his mistress's eyebrow. And then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the part, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble, reputation, even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly and good capon line, with eye severe and beard of formal cut, full of voice soused in modern instances, and so he plays his part. The sixth age shifts into lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacle on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his stunk stank, and his big, manly voice, turning into childish treble, pipes and whistles, and a sound. The last scene of all, that ends this strange, eventful history. Second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Thank you.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing them, we end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by sleep, to say we end the heartache and thousands of natural shocks that flesh is heir to. This is the consummation, devoutly, to God, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off the mortal's coil, must give us a pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud men consummate, the pangs of deprived love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, the spurns, the patient merits of the unworthy takes, when he himself might quietness make with bare bodkin. Who would fathers bear to grunt and sweat unto the very life? But that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills that we have. Thank you.
Countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus had told you Caesar was ambitious. If it was so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it. Here, under the leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men, come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal. I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disapprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? Oh, judgment, thou art said to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Arid me. My heart is in that coffin ere with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me.
Thank you. No! She is one of this confederacy. Now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false sport in spite of me. Injurious Hermia, most ungrateful maid, have you conspired? Have you with these contrived to bait me with this foul oration? Is all the counsel that we have shared, the sisters' vows, the hours that we have spent when we have chid the hasty-footed time for parting us, was it all forgot? All school days, friendships, childhood, innocence. We, Hermia, like two artificial gods, have with our needles created both one flower, both on one sampler, sitting on one cushion, both warbling off one song, both in one key, as if our hands, our sides, voices, and minds had been incorporate. So we grew together, like to a double cherry, seeming parted, but yet an union in partition. Two lovely berries molded on one stem, so with two seeming bodies, but one heart. Two of the first, like goats in heraldry, due but to one and crowned with one crest. And will you rent our angel love asunder to join with men in scorning your poor friend? It is not friendly, it is not maidenly. A kind as well as I may chide you for it, though I alone do feel the injury. Thank you.
Oh, definitely not. It's the audience.
Yes, but I'm talking about our next and last performance by Siddhant Jani of 10th G, who is going to soliloquize one of Shakespeare's most celebrated tragedies, Macbeth.
Here, Macbeth is revealing his intention to kill King Duncan in order to become the king.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle towards my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not faint and vision, sensible to feeling at your sight? Or art thou but a dagger of mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat oppressed brain? I still see thee in form as palpable as which now I draw. Thou marshals me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. My eyes are made the fools of the senses, or they are worth all the rest. I see thee yet, and on thy blade dudgeon and gouts of blood, which are not so before. No, there is no such thing. It is the bloody business which comes us to my eyes. Now half of the world, nature seems dead, wicked deeds abuse, the court and sleep, witchcraft celebrates pain, hecate sufferings, and withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf who houses watch, thus with a steady pace. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps which way they walk, for fear tall very stones break of my way about to take the present horror from the time which now suits with it. Was I threat he lives, words the heat of deeds who called breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell.
And all the teachers present here. I'm sure all of you enjoyed this morning the declamation by the students of class 10. It is very sad and disappointing that your textbook doesn't have any of Shakespeare's poems or plays. We did have one earlier, Julius Caesar, a shorter one, but now we do not have any in 9th or 10th. Otherwise, in earlier times, the first poem in every textbook would begin with Shakespeare. Why is Shakespeare known as the greatest dramatist in the world? It's not because he wrote 37 plays or he wrote more than 1,000 lines of poetry. He was less educated than you. He knew little Greek and less Latin. In those times, to be educated, one had to know both these languages, but he didn't know. He just went to high school or so. He was not so educated. He didn't know grammar well. He's made many grammatical mistakes in his plays. Yet, he is considered as the greatest dramatist in the world. What is the reason? His stories are not original. They are taken from history or from other sources, all his stories. What makes him unique is the way he wrote them, the language, the thoughts, ideas, and views. As I said a couple of days back, he could open the heads of his characters and look into their minds, what they are thinking. Even before the word psychology was coined, Shakespeare saw the psychological aspects of his characters. And I always confess, that though I had English and psychology in my graduation, I learned more psychology from Shakespeare than from psychology itself. Every character that you come across in Shakespeare, especially the tragedies, whether it is Macbeth or Hamlet, King Lear or Julius Caesar or Othello, what is very, very striking is the psychology of the person that Shakespeare is able to express to us. We can see the characters in flesh and blood, not just, like robots. They are real characters, having human flaws and good points also. I'm very happy to see that so many students, 10 or 11 students, you have taken the effort to learn the language, to learn Shakespearean lines, which are not the language that we use now. It is the medieval language, and we use what is called the modern English. It is difficult. Shakespearean plays require explanation if you go to read them. You can't just read them and understand. They require explanation. But all the students who came to the stage, they were able to learn the lines and also recite them in the correct manner with the feelings and emotions. Only thing I would suggest is in declamation or any other speech that you make, be very slow. Be very slow when you speak. Don't say it fast. Maybe you have the fear that you might forget. But don't hurry up with your speech. Speak very slowly. And in declamation, acting is not counted. It's only speech. Acting, costume, These do not matter in declamation. Only the way you speak matters. So remember that when you come to declaim the next time. But I would say finally that all those who came onto the stage, did a wonderful job. My congratulations to all of them, and let us have a big round of applause for them. I also appreciate the teachers who have trained the students in these monologues and soliloquies and all the verses that you have recited today. Thank you for inviting me. I really had a nice morning, so thank you for that.